Good morning, gladiators. We who are about to play salute you. Hey everybody, today we're combining my love of two genres, the role-playing game genre and the beat-em-up genre. Now if you think that's a strange mix, you're not alone. It's not something that's been done many times before, but in 1993, Capcom, best known for Street Fighter and those style games, tried their hand at a Dungeons and Dragons licensed beat 'em up in the style of Streets of Rage and Final Fight and that kind of game, and the result is a game called Dungeons and Dragons Tower of Doom. This is a game that is a lot of fun, and you'll be pleasantly surprised if you've never seen this before, if you're a fan of either of those genres. So without further ado, let's jump into D&D Tower of Doom. Tower of Doom. Alright, so I'm actually playing this game in a browser at the retrogames.cc website, which is a wonderful resource for playing classic arcade games from all the different eras. So if you remember a game from your childhood, it's probably here. Alright, so one of the fun things about playing arcade games in browsers and so on is you actually have to simulate coins, putting coins in. That's what I'm doing right now. Welcome to the D&D world. Press start. One of the issues though is that the sound is a little bit messed up, doesn't really emulate the sound that well. One of the cool things is you can choose your character, nicely animated, based on these Dungeons and Dragons archetypes like the fighter, the elf, cleric, and the dwarf. Let's go with the cleric. My character in my real life Dungeons and Dragons campaign, which I played over the last few years, was in fact a cleric. I'll call him Redkin. Ah, damn it. I pressed the wrong button. Alright, doesn't matter. Okay. So, yeah, classic beat-em-up style game. You can move around like this, up, down, left, and right. Very much inspired by games like Final Fight. But it does have role-playing elements. You actually upgrade your skills and abilities, and you can actually cast spells and things. And you get treasure and experience. It sort of very loosely ties into the D&D rule set. That kobold is doing me a bit of damage. Not sure what all the buttons are. Already lost the life. Disappointing. Continue. Really cool sprite work in this game. This looks awesome. And now we have a gnoll, G-N-O-L-L, gnoll, who are like large hyena kind of guys. So they've obviously done their research on characters from Dungeons and Dragons, and this is actually set in a world called Mystara. And there was a sequel to this game called Shadows over Mystara, which actually kind of furthered the quest. One of the cool things about this game, compared to like Final Fight, is it's actually got branching paths. Some are headed for the mountains. What do you want to do? Head to the mountains, head to the town. Let's go to the mountains after the monsters. So you can choose different paths, and each time you play, you might find a different path. Now this game was actually for up to 4 players in the arcade, which is really cool. And it's actually a lot easier with 4 players. Eerie sounds of the cavern. There's a treasure chest with a kobold waiting behind it, and I had a trap. Gotta get out of the fire. Now there's actually a way... Oh yeah, I should use my spells. Ready? I don't know what the button is to use the spell. Ah, that's how you do it, I guess. But the cleric can actually cast spells like turn undead and what were the other spells? The striking hammer, which is probably spiritual hammer if I know D&D correctly. But we should try and use turn undead on these guys if we can. How do we use that? I still don't know what the button is. There you go. There it is. Awesome. We turned undead. So the thing with that one is you actually need time to cast the spell. So you need like a warrior to protect you or something. You know, this is something that's quite out of the scope of a regular beat 'em up, you know. Chest too heavy. We can bash it open. I think the fighter can pick up the chest. Clerics are generally pretty strong, but... Whoa, here we go. Here's our first boss, and he's a giant ogre. Ogre leader. Prepare for doom. No. Not today, death. And they've done a nice little palette shift as the light changes in the game. So you notice our cleric is now a little bit more purple. Try a different spell. What about the hammer? That's done some damage. We only had a few of them. Flaming Orb. So he's got a fair few cool spells. And he's got hold person on the ogre. I think by the actual classic definition of D&D rules, it would be hold monster, because the ogres are probably too big for that spell. Whoa, getting smashed. So as you can see, this is another one of those games that you'll be putting a lot of coins into if you want to finish. Or you gotta, you know, get good. I used to play this game with my good friend Greg Bernard Wee, who I've mentioned many times was the inspiration for Sir Belgrave in the Sword and Sandals games. And we went to, when we were kids, we'd go down to Chinatown in Sydney, and there was this great arcade machine near his dad's work, and it was Dungeons and Dragons. We loved both things. We loved arcade games and D&D, and this was just this incredible game that we played a fair bit, but we never finished. And it's kind of cool. You can actually go to the shops and get new gear, like so we can buy a throwing hammer. Clerics can't use swords. Let's get a potion of healing. Okay, and then we'll keep going. Take the main route. Better be on guard for monsters. The heart of the Republic. So I just thought it was really cool that they had these little story elements in the game that just, you know, add some flavor to it. And replayability as well, you know. Oh. The Griffin. It's gonna be a tough one to deal with. What does that ring do, I wonder? Oh, that's cool. Continue to light. No, oh, it's blinding him. Cool, that's good. It's an owlbear, not a griffin. Oh yeah, of course, it doesn't have the wings. Doesn't really look like an owl's head though, does it? Looks more like a griffin's head. D&D has really had a big resurgence in recent years. You know, it's actually become, you know, it was not cool when I was young. I'll tell you that for nothing. But these days, it's much more socially acceptable to play, and it's actually, you know, a lot of fun. And if you've never played a real-life D&D campaign, if you have a good dungeon master, can make all the difference. My good friend Tom Gattenhoff was the DM for the campaign that I was playing in the Forgotten Realms universe, and having a DM like that can make all the difference, because he does all the voices of all the characters. They create an amazing narrative, and they have all these interesting contingency plans for if things go wrong in your campaign, or if the players don't choose the path that, you know, you set out for them. So a good dungeon master is, you have to be a bit of a master storyteller, you know. So we have a dead soldier here. What happened here? Help us. Part of a patrol, hunting the beast when we're attacked by it. Hurry into the city. Let's go to the fort. So the big baddie in this game is actually a demi-lich. I never got that far, but you know, a big undead skeletal thing. But there's also like a massive boss you can. It's an alternate boss you can fight called Flamewing, and it's a huge red dragon. Red dragons are some of the most powerful creatures in the game. So a couple of guys got hurt here. Who's attacking them? Ah, more knolls. I'd love to be able to choose a different character, but because of the way my keyboard's set up, I'm only using the cleric, but I would have loved to have shown you the fighter and the other different characters. Striking! I didn't do anything, or I obviously misused it. Let's use the hammer. The hammer of justice! The cleric's a good mixture of melee and magic. You know, if you're particularly more magically inclined, you find that you want to be a mage, or even the elf. Actually, I think there isn't a mage in this game. There might just be the elf. Because in the original Dungeons and Dragons, and we're not talking about modern Dungeons and Dragons or advanced Dungeons and Dragons, an elf was a class in the same way a fighter was a class. And a dwarf was actually a class, and they were basically just a fighter. So, you know, advanced Dungeons and Dragons brought in the ability to have an elven fighter or a dwarven priest or something like that. Alright, we've got a boss fight coming up. Oh, displace a beast. Really cool cutscenes, you know, like the just little scenes like that. You wouldn't call them cutscenes per se, but just fantastic. I mean, you can see the pedigree that Capcom brought to this, you know, the same amazing sprite work that you see in Street Fighter and games like that. This was one of the last of the sort of side-scrolling beat-em-up style games, unfortunately. The success of games like Street Fighter really saw the downfall of these kind of games. Although there are a couple of great indies these days, like there's a game called Fallen City Brawl, which is coming out next year, that looks like another classic beat 'em up. And of course they're bringing Streets of Rage 4 out. But if you want to play these games these days, you have to go and find the old arcade machines or, you know, the browsers. And this is one of the best examples. This one and the sequel. And if you haven't played Streets of Rage or Final Fight, or even Ninja Turtles, they're some of the best ones too. I'm just burning through continues here. Continual light. Let's try and stun him. Continual light. He's pretty tough. A ring of lightning. Oh, that did some damage. So that was a one-off shot. That's what the ring did. You really want to play these games with a joystick. Playing with a keyboard kind of sucks, unfortunately. Especially when you're not sure what the actual keys do. Like I'm using the left side of the keyboard here. But that's just me complaining about my lack of skill. Sticks to snakes. Go get them, snakies. They didn't do that much damage. Oh, they're still attacking though. These things aren't undead, so that's not going to do anything. That won't work on these guys because they're animals. Hold person. Nearly got him. I keep using that. I shouldn't be using that spell. see if we can blind him for a second. Doesn't work for that long, but just enough for him to... And you notice the second displace the beast is gone because these guys kind of have a shadow that they... But we got him. One hit. One more hit. Oh, he got us again. Come on. Not the most heroic cleric. There you go. Finally. Sorry, I'm sure that was as painful to watch as it was to play. You defeated the beast and rescued the fort. Alright. And, little bit more exposition. That's our characters. There's the fighter, elf, dwarf, and cleric. Cleric's a bit of a beast, isn't he? He's massive. So now we have to go to a city we've leveled up. I'm actually not sure how big the game is because I never finished it. I actually should try and finish it properly one day, but not today. Not today, Death. So we're now off to another city. We're on a ship. But... Oh, the ship's being attacked. But you know what? That, my friends, is it for today because... you know, I just wanted to give you a bit of a taste for that game, but it was a lot of fun, and I will probably play the sequel as well, which had a few more improvements graphically and continue the adventure. So if you like these kinds of games, you should check out Dungeons & Dragons Tower of Doom. Until next time, bye for now.